Two people walk into a room smelling of fresh baking. There were two plates. One with freshly baked chocolate cookies and one with radishes. Which one would you prefer? One person gets to enjoy the cookie, whilst the other person gets to smell the nice aroma of the chocolate cookie, but they are only allowed to eat the radish and not sample the cookies. Which person would you prefer to be in this situation? The example of ego depletion here is that the cost of energy it takes to self-regulate and overcome the desire to eat the chocolate cookie decreases self-control on additional tasks that day. Thought suppression, impulse control, emotional control, and task performance are all related. And to what extent has that act of self-regulation created ego depletion?
Psychological researchers have a name for this phenomenon: ego depletion. The theory is that willpower is connected to a limited reserve of mental energy, and once we run out of this energy, we're more likely to lose self-control. Any act of self-regulation involves exertion that spends energy and therefore depletes the supply available. When this occurs, it subsequently impairs self-control. Ego depletion is caused by excessive consumption of self-regulatory resources. This refers to inner strength and energy that resist emotional fatigue and support self-regulation. Have you ever walked out of a meeting feeling totally exhausted?
Prior over-exertion of self-regulation impacts directly on decision-making. Project managers must repeatedly regulate emotions and behaviour when coordinating outside intra-organisation relationships. If the project manager limits his involvement with outside organisations, such as subcontractors, it can minimise the effect of ego depletion. Intra-organisational involvement relates more closely with members of their own organisation. This limits the amount of self-regulatory responses required from the project manager. When a project manager is ego depleted, their ability to effectively manage risks is compromised. They no longer have the same level of sound judgment ability. This can be somewhat prevented by the project manager choosing a more internal, intra-organisational approach and utilising the skills of those available to them more effectively.
Once a level of ego depletion occurs and the inner self-control resource is reduced, engaging in future tasks involving self-control may lead individuals to view tasks as unimportant. This is due to what the relatively costly demand of doing that task will place on the remaining resource. Ego depletion reduces project managers' work efficiency, slows the effective management of project schedules, allocation resources, and project risks. If a task is perceived as difficult and the project manager is experiencing ego depletion, it's more likely the project manager will make ill-informed decisions around these types of tasks. If a particular task, for example, meeting with a team of subcontractors, creates an excessive form of ego depletion, then when the project manager goes to do his next operational task, his ability to exert self-control will be limited. Ego depletion can be evident when there is a consistent decrement in task performance. It can lead to low energy and a drop in efficiency. Project managers must repeatedly regulate emotions and behaviour to coordinate outside organisational relationships. Therefore, external organisational tasks may lead to ego depletion.
Project managers must repeatedly regulate emotions and behaviour to coordinate inter-organisational relationships efficiently. For example, uncontrolled outbursts, making decisions based on emotion, poor organisational relationships, and actions not beneficial for the project. Self-management is a core part of emotional intelligence within project managers. It elaborates on the importance of controlling emotion, which is the ability to remain unfazed in a stressful situation, and the ability to deal with a hostile person without lashing out at them in return. Self-management includes things like emotional control, as well as being authentic, adaptable, trustworthy, and have a drive for achievement, which is an optimistic striving to continually improve performance. Ensuring project managers have these skills allows them to more easily identify how they are feeling and focus on how to solve these issues if they are feeling ego depleted.
Fatigue may motivate people to conserve their self-control resources when depleted. When fatigued, it is easier to perform a passive action than an active action, which limits project performance. When people are depleted, people are more likely to take a passive approach. This is the easiest option, but not necessarily the best option for the project. Ego-depleted individuals would rather make a passive action than an active decision. Fatigue may not be a mere indicator of ego depletion, but rather a mediator of its effects. What are the signs of ego depletion?
Poor judgment, risk-taking, emotional reactions.
What can we do to help reduce ego depletion?
Acknowledge early warning signs like fatigue and task avoidance.
Will incentives reduce ego depletion?
Short term, yes. However, it only creates a temporary relief from the effects of ego depletion.
Does working closer in an individual's own organisation help?
Yes, sharing the task load with fellow co-workers is an effective way of reducing ego depletion. Bearing the burden of stresses from outside organisations brings no reward or benefit to the project manager.
What key qualities can be enhanced to assist in the reduction of ego depletion?
Training on self-control tasks, the ability to identify ego-depleted states, motivational incentives, monetary or positive reinforcement. Understanding this topic of ego depletion provides support to individuals of why they may be struggling day to day with their job tasks and activities. Applying this knowledge can combat ego depletion and provide understanding for what incentivizes and supports individuals to kick ego depletion to the curb. Motivational incentives such as monetary reward can offset the increase in ego depletion. For example, if managers know that once they complete a task, or if in doing extra work provides them a bonus, they may not feel so depleted and maintain motivation to perform the job to a high standard. Project managers may increase their motivation by engaging in team building exercises. In ego-depleted states, individuals have shown that they can effectively perform short-term tasks, providing they have sufficient incentives and their motivational state is high. Key factors in project managers' day-to-day that can be affected by ego depletion are decision-making abilities, ability to maintain control of their emotions, decrease in task performance, and downright overall fatigue. Self-control capacity is an acquired, stable skill that once learned would result in a relatively consistent performance on consecutive self-control tasks. Individuals who practice on self-control tasks appear to be less vulnerable to ego depletion. This provides a clear example that self-control is a limited resource. The key approach to ego depletion is to use methods to avoid it as much as possible. Also, paying close attention to self-regulation is important in day-to-day tasks.